Translating all of that journey into your game design process, what has been the learnings that you put into your game design process back in the day when you were working as a game designer, and what was essentially your process behind, designing games essentially?
It was very interesting because this when I was learning or wanted to do game design, there was no rule book for game design. There were no books on game design, so it really just for me it was just about prototyping using whatever tools I had at my disposal, which wasn't very much. Like Unity didn't exist. Like people are so lucky today to have Unity. Like if I had that when I was younger, I would have just gone crazy with the possibilities. But instead, I would have to do things like paper prototypes. So I would take sort of the board games that my family would play, and I would refashion them into like new games, using Monopoly, well, playing Monopoly in a different way. Or I remember I had a magnet set as a kid, so I would design levels using magnets and make like marble runs and things like that. So I guess very early on, I would make games using like kind of physical or paper prototypes and then test them on people to see how much they enjoyed it. My first sort of gaming engines was probably Game Maker or RPG Maker. And that's where I could actually make something and actually make a binary on PC and run it. So on Game Maker, my first game, I was really into Harry Potter. And in Harry Potter, there was this game J.K. Rowling described called Quidditch, and it's a popular franchise now, but at that time nobody knew what Quidditch was, and there was no game for Quidditch. And I thought I would be the first game designer to make Quidditch on PC. So that's what I did. I loaded up Game Maker. I created all the elements. Read the book to understand what the rules were in detail for the game, and sort of created this sort of 2D version of Quidditch that I could play, and even made it multiplayer, so you could choose your role, whether you were the bludger or the seeker or whatever, and you could sort of play a full game of Quidditch. I realized that the Quidditch was a very bad game though, because the rules were terrible. Like I discovered like why shouldn't well, J.K. Rowling was an author, not a game designer, I guess. But if Quidditch were a real game in real life, it makes sense for everybody on the team to look for the golden snitch, because why would you bother with anything else? It gives so many points. Um, so yeah, so Game Maker was my first tool. I made a bunch of games there, and then RPG Maker. It made like that's where I learned to sort of the whole pipeline of making assets, making sprite sheets, authoring simple sort of logic trees and dialogue trees, and building these sorts of RPG worlds. RPG Maker is still available today, and it's actually kind of the same tool as it was. So I learned a lot sort of messing around with not just building games on RPG Maker, but downloading other people's projects and then deconstructing them, opening them up, looking at how they managed to pull this off, how did they pull that off. And that's how I learned sort of, I guess, basic coding and logic through that. And yeah, and then I graduated to Flash 2.0 and then Flash 3.0 as well, where I used to make like lots of point and click adventures. Yeah. My first resume, by the way, my first like resume that I submit to companies was a Flash site, which was a point and click adventure where you could discover like my resume and like what I'd worked on in college and all my projects.